Hello, I'm Kimberly Henry, and this is Living the Good Life. In this series, we'll feature conversations around ways to embrace the goodness of life and take a big, juicy bite out of it. Food for the soul and the funny bone. Learn to give more time to yourself, become a better friend, lead an amazing life, and how to tell the best joke at the party. Living the good life can mean different things to different people. Whatever it is for you, I hope you'll find some inspiration here to live your most joyful, authentic life. Now, on to today's conversation. I'm incredibly excited about today's guest because his life story thus far is a great blueprint for what this podcast is all about. For over 30 years, he was president and CEO of a successful steel business, checking every single box of traditional success, achievement, security. But in his early 50s, he experienced a profound awakening that completely reshaped his world. He realized that a good life isn't about how things look from the outside, it's about how aligned you feel on the inside. So, for the past 2 decades, he's dedicated his life to helping others experience greater awareness, authenticity, and heart. He's here today to share his story and deeply practical, heart centered wisdom that you can put to use right away. Please welcome to the show, Jeffrey Eisen. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you. And you are coming to us from Toronto, you say.
Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Yes, yes.
Yay. And how are things in Toronto?
They're fine. And we're starting to get summer. I sense that all of us around the planet are feeling some weather changes, weather disruptions. And part of my journey has taken me on a bit of a spiritual path as well. So I like to look at the deeper understanding of what's happening in the world. So when I see whether it's a climate or whether I see it political or anything like that, it's sort of like, okay, I think we are being nudged to change. And of course, because as you mentioned, I had a big change in my early 50s, and so I'm a big change advocate. I'm a big change advocate, and it's kind of interesting because I knew I was coming on the podcast today, and so I woke up this morning saying, okay, living the good life. What does that mean? And so I love your title because it just gives everybody that opportunity, including me, who has been on my journey for a number of years, to stop and pause and say, well, what does that really mean, living the good life? And fabulous, fabulous. You must have a great time interviewing so many people with their perspective on, what is living the good life.
You know what I love, and thank you for that. And what I love about it is that it's kind of a double entendre, especially for those of us who are more mature in age. I think when I first entertained the title, it harkens to the days of, Frank Sinatra and Cary Grant and all of that, right? They're living the high life. But most people that I speak to today, they get it right away that we're here to talk about the layers of what makes it good for you. What makes it good for you, what makes it impactful, and everybody comes to it from a different perspective because we're all in a different place in our journey and we're all on a different journey, right?
Absolutely. And I think you hit on something that's really interesting. And that is that we are on all of our unique paths, our unique journey. And yet we tend to be taught that living the good life is one size fits all. And it's like, how can that be? Right. And by the way, I'm even more in that mature range than you are. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I say I'm in my final chapters. Last month I turned 74. So we can become a little bit more reflective. And again, congratulations for offering this as a resource to people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, where we're giving them the benefit of different perspectives, and not simply accepting what we were taught the good life is supposed to be. Because I did that for 50 years. I did it. I did exactly what I was told. And, don't get me wrong, there were some aspects of good life in there. Um, but boy, it wasn't my good life. It wasn't my good life. It was the good life I was told I was supposed to have. And the
Yeah.
last 20 years has been, it's like, wow, right? Yeah, this is what brings me happiness. This is what brings me joy. And I have to say, having been on my journey of self discovery for over 20 years now, I still, get these aha moments of, okay, this is the good life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is kind of neat. Yesterday, my wife and I, we live in a condo, and we decided, okay, let's be productive. It was a great day, and we did some stuff around the condo, and we did some errands, and both of us really felt fulfilled at the end of the day. And it's like, well, when we get old, there's there's
It
small things
changes,
to make
right?
you happy. I'm sure some listeners are saying, "Oh, poor old guy." He was productive around his condo. He did some errands, and that felt like the good life. But it did. It gave that sense of satisfaction. Moved stuff around, cleaned things up, cleaned like for the longest time. We've got this great condo that looks out on a ravine. We're up on the top floor, and the condo corp cleans the outside windows but not the balcony doors, and I always
Gotcha.
look out and it's sort of it's dirty, and it's like, gee, we really should do something about it. I looked up, found this great gizmo at Home Depot and picked it up and washed the windows, and this morning we look out and we see no dirt on the windows. Little things like that can
Yeah.
be a good life.
Yeah. And I think that happens at all ages. And I feel like as a culture, we're kind of embracing that more and more. Like what came to mind, believe it or not, I don't know if you have any sourdough aficionados in your life, but that is huge right now, especially among like young moms and things, that they're really going back to making their own bread, canning their own
Yeah,
home goods.
I had a nephew like that who we invited him and his two kids over, his wife and his two kids, and he brings the sourdough loaf, and it's like, whoa, is that? Yeah, exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about. That's that moment of good life, right?
I
It's
think we
like, yeah,
crave
boy,
that.
yes.
We crave it kinesthetically, all of the ways, all of the ways.
Mhm.
So let's maybe paint the picture a little bit about what your corporate career was like in the day to day and see if that resonates for some folks. Um, you were in the trenches for 30 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, and to give you some context, I I grew up in a small town, and my father was in a family business. He was in the scrap metal business. And only when I went on my journey of self discovery did I put some context and realization that the reason I showed an interest in the business is I wanted my father's recognition,
Mm,
appreciation, love, and he seemed to be only interested in the business. So it's like unconsciously, if I pay attention to the business, maybe he'll pay attention to me. And so I would work there in the summers, and um, he and his brother, my uncle, were partners, and my uncle unfortunately passed away at a very young age, 46, a massive heart attack. I saw that it took such a toll on my father, so I decided, okay, well, I'm going to be responsible and come in and save the day, and
mm,
that just became the habit of what I was supposed to do. So I went off to university, dropped out after second year, went back into the family business at 21, worked there for 30 years. Fortunately, got married, had kids, but stress, looking to build the business, looking to, I would, I would try to dress the part. And what's interesting is that I never had the education. I never worked for anyone else. So my desire to prove my success was greater maybe than most. And, underneath it was that mm, lack of my sense of worth. I mean, who am
mm.
I, right? I mean, I come into the business at 21 and I have to boss people around that are twice my age. And it was a small business. I built it up to a multi-million dollar business, 80 people reporting to me. And so outwardly, it may have seemed successful, but along with it was gastrointestinal illness. I had Crohn's disease for most of my life from my mid 20s, ulcers, back pain,
Oh, wow.
and as a consequence, not really a great father. Thank heavens, my wife was an amazing mother, and I'm sure you can identify with that. Thank heavens for the mothers that save the fathers that think that their success is proving their value in business and financially and all of that. And at age 50, I started to question there has to be more to life, because that treadmill, my Crohn's disease got to that point where I had to have my first Crohn's surgery. And it was like, okay, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? Whereas if you would have asked me 10 years earlier, I would have said, I never want to retire. I'm just going to do this, right? It's like, but that was my programming. That was my programming. That was not my living the good life.
Right.
And
Right.
so
And so what was the aha moment that you made a different choice?
it was interesting because as a life coach, as a spiritual life coach, I coach a lot of people, and sometimes you get that aha moment, but mine was just sort of a steady nudging from the universe, and I look back on it and it all makes sense now, and it wasn't as evident at the time. As the company grew, we had to deal with training and cultural issues, so we brought in a human resources consultant, and we brought in some training programs, and he would spend some time with me. And I was kind of getting a bit interested in leadership books, but they were business leadership. And then he sort of turned me on to some personal development books. And I remember going off on vacation, and he gave me a book. It was Robin Sharma's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, which was an interesting book. And I went and bought a few more, and I went to a workshop of his, and he is quite a reasonably famous Canadian motivational speaker. And he was my first coach. And that's when I started to avidly read and get interested in more than just the business, because I was pretty singly focused. It was like they tell stories of how I would come home for dinner and the family would be around the table, and all the kids, with 3 kids, and they all wanted to talk about what happened at school. My wife would look at me, as I'm staring off into thin air saying, "Where are you? Are you not paying attention?" And of course, I'm reliving the day because I had to figure out what we did right, what we did wrong, where we we're going to go next. And so, as I went on this journey of self-discovery, the company, by certain standards, was successful, financially successful. It was growing, but I wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, is there things as you began that shift, were there things that were hard to let go of? I mean, was it hard to let go of that idea or interpretation of success?
It's interesting. As I look back, I probably was more excited. I think the best way to describe it is, when you sort of wake up from a dream that isn't a very comfortable one, and you open your eyes and you realize that, oh, that's not my life. That was just my dream. I think that's what it was for me. It was I was reading 50, 60 books a year. I was going to alternative healing modalities. This was like so exciting, maybe because it was new. Don't forget, I had done what I did for 30 years, and it didn't get any easier. It was a slug. It was really a tough slugging. And so this was like, whoa, right? I mean, having dropped out of university in second year and being so focused on business, I found it so enlightening, so empowering. So it's like, whoa, isn't it? Wow, right? And then I got into spirituality. And so reading these books and going to workshops. And what was kind of interesting is I lost interest in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But, the old me was kind of afraid I can't let go of the business, right? It's my source of income. So I
Right.
probably held on a little bit too long and put someone else in as the president and CEO.
Right.
And maybe that was a bit of a mistake. And it was like, okay, he's more qualified than me. I'll go off on this journey and get to find who I am, and he'll run the business. But we came upon some a little bit challenging financial times, and I know that was the universe saying, "Let go of the old, Jeffrey. It's time to fully embrace the new." So
Yeah.
I didn't. I was one of those that didn't find it difficult. I mean, as I started to do some of the work and some of the
Mm-hmm.
emotional trauma healing and change the beliefs, it required effort, but
Mm-hmm.
it was exciting. It was and now I know this is what I came here to live, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
considering writing a book from the perspective of the do-over that I had, the two lives that I got to experience in
Mm-hmm.
this one lifetime.
That's amazing. Well, we are we're on the edge of our seats waiting for that book for sure.
Thank you for your kindness.
I wanted to I want to move into some other questions that I have for you, but I want to just I'm going to hammer this point home one more time, or just ask for your perspective on it one more time. For somebody that you're coaching that's looking at making a transition, how do you suggest that they approach it?
It requires a certain amount of awareness. That first coach that I had
Mm-hmm.
taught me something that continues to resonate, and I pass on to others, and that is that awareness leads to choice, and choice leads to change. So,
Mm-hmm.
someone that has the old belief
Mm-hmm.
about what the good life is, I challenge it. One of my more natural talents is helping people see a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like, well, are you really sure? And how good a life is that? And yes, I know you have this, but is there any downside? So you get them to take baby steps, and then you open them up to this other perspective. And one of the big ones, certainly it was part of my journey, because that first coach taught me an early awakening practice of journaling. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the first um, alternative health healing modalities I went to was a shaman who scanned my body and said that my lower chakras, my digestive system, was like a tar field of unexpressed emotion. No
Wow.
coincidence I had that Crohn's disease. And I was born in 1952. I was a male when that uncle that I loved so dearly passed away at 46. I was told to be tough, don't cry.
Right.
So yeah, that was no
Right.
surprise to me. And so as I started opening up towards my feelings,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us believe that living the good life is having that discipline of pushing through, of the smartest person wins.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I learn and teach other people is what you want most is not that monetary success or that big car or big house or family. It is the feeling underneath it.
Mm.
Now I know that are living the RV life, and
Yes.
I would assume that there are things you like about it, but my sense is that it's the feeling of freedom. It's the
Yes.
feeling of spontaneity. It's
Yes.
right. So everything we want is a feeling. So when I start working with someone about the good life, um, which I don't call it that, but if you don't mind, I'd love that phrase, living the good
Sure.
life.
Let's
Like,
share.
are you living the good life? Let's talk about that, right? And they'll
Yeah.
tell me all of the things that they think is the good life. And then I will simply help them shift their perspective, right? In the end, right? Is that really what you want, right? And
Right.
so it's the perspective shift and getting people to tap into their emotions and understanding that it's not the good life they want, it's the feeling they think the good life will bring them. And then
Yes.
once you open that up, it's like, wow, right. So it might not be the title, it might not be the career, it might be the right. And then what is that feeling? And of course, often when I'm doing that, then we start opening up the, suppressed emotional trauma that I have and most of us have.
Yeah.
And we got to do some of that healing because I believe that when we have that emotional trauma, it's very natural to go to our mind uh,
Mm-hmm.
and not want to feel those uncomfortable feelings. And
Mm-hmm.
so the mind starts defining what the good life is, when in essence, you want the heart to be determining what the good life is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really, I mean, that was a beautiful segue into my next question. So, um, overthinking. I'm hearing a lot about overthinking lately. People are constantly saying, it's an epidemic where we are just overthinking everything too much. So how
Mhm.
does that play into the work that you do and what you're seeing with
Well, yeah,
yourself and others?
I mean, what I like to do is teach people how to quiet the mind and open the heart. Because if the heart is going to be the key to the good life, right? If what
Mm-hmm.
we feel, right, um, there could be a time where RV living is not what you want to do, and the only way you're going to know it is it's not going to feel as good as it does
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
so yes, the overthinking and for me, helping people understand why they have overthought, right? You can't just say overthinking is no good, right? You're taking, I don't know, hundreds of years of being taught, right? I mean, you go to school, it's about thinking. It's kind of interesting. I was out for lunch with my granddaughter. She's 16, and school was just over here in Canada. She's in high school, uh, um, grade 10, I guess. And I said, you know, what did you learn about, education this year? What's your perspective on it? And it was kind of interesting. She said, well, there's kind of two parts. There's that part where you learn uh, life skills, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's that part where you learn career and job skills. And she said, I kind of really think that we have to focus a little bit more on the life skills because we're not taught that enough in school. And it's like, whoa, isn't that brilliant? I wish I
Yeah.
would have known that, right? And
Yeah.
so it's we have to realize that we have been programmed to believe, and
Mm-hmm.
this was one of my mantras in my business years: the person with the most thoughts wins the game. Right? Not so,
True.
not so. I mean, we really believe that. And as far as one of the detriments to the good life, I think our technology, our social media, I think it is really, really hurting us because we believe the good life is defined by what we're told, what we read, what we see on social media. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have a sense. Your good life and my good life are going to be different, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I like to travel, but probably not in an RV. And you and your husband, I keep using that one. I don't know that much about you, but so we are taught that there's one way to live the good life, and that's not true.
Yeah,
That's not
well,
true.
it's been
There's 8
happening
billion.
forever, right? With magazines, tabloids, and
Oh,
TV, and even when broadcast radio became a thing 100 years ago now. Um, the minute that somebody had the opportunity to use a megaphone to influence other people and sell things, um, we've been fed kind of a narrative of what life should look like, right?
it's the wrong narrative. It's
Mm-hmm.
the wrong narrative. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. And so that overthinking is only going to get you deeper in. Because just think about it, okay? Think about it, right? So, if I say, oh, what's your good life, Kimberly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to start listing things, and then you're automatically going to start to develop a plan to get to that good life.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get there, it may not be the good life you imagined because it came from your mind.
Oh, gotcha.
Everything you want in life is a feeling. Everything we do is that feeling. And if we are thinking too much, then we're
Mm-hmm.
disconnecting from the compass that tells us whether it's the good life.
Okay, so you got me into my corporate brain a little bit.
Okay.
So
You told me
so
not to go too deep here, but
I know we're going deep. No, but
well,
so so here's maybe where the confusion lies for a lot of people. And that is when you're talking about personal development, you're talking about professional development, or even just what we're programmed, as you were saying earlier. We're programmed that we shouldn't be so emotional. We shouldn't let our emotions dictate our decisions. Um, so that
it's
kind of,
wrong. It's wrong. They
I'm
got us to be
saying,
crazy. That was a lie. We're in the matrix. Take the blue pill. And, I mean, yeah. And that's what I was taught, and it's a lie.
oh,
It's a
wow.
lie. I mean,
Okay.
how could I have felt so fulfilled, so
Mm-hmm.
moments of joy doing errands and washing those windows that I looked at every day that looked dirty out into the sun and out into the forest. And this morning I called my wife and said, look how clear it is to look out at the forest. She said, yeah. But of course, the old perfectionism in me said, oh, there's a bit of a streak I missed.
Yes.
Naughty Jeffrey, let that one go. Let that one go.
Yeah, but how do you build a multi-million dollar business if you are relying on motions to navigate, for example?
Which is, I mean, I haven't figured that part out, but I know that maybe the multi-million dollar business isn't what people want. Okay.
Right.
And maybe you do it. The late Wayne Dyer used to tell a story of, I forget the book, but Isaac Asimov on his deathbed, he said, my whole life was a lie. Right. There are people, okay, I don't regret going into business because I live a pretty good life now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I was meant to do what I'm doing now, not be in business. I'm meant to help people. There was that moment in that shift,
Mm-hmm.
when I embarked on my journey of self-discovery, and what I would say to myself is, I've come to realize I care more about people than profits.
Nice.
That was a big shift. That was a big shift.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
so
that
that
isn't common in the
Well,
boardroom,
no, and
you
that's
know?
the uphill battle. And we have
Yeah.
to get out of the matrix. We have to realize that if you want the good life, it has to be your good life, not what everyone else tells you is the good life. And
Mm-hmm.
sorry to bring up social media again, it is polluting our brain with what is supposed to be the good life. I do not play sports. Like, I am a very, by traditional standards, boring senior citizen. My wife says, oh, you're not very social. You don't play golf. I play pickleball. Right? It's like, I don't watch sports. Okay. And so when I knew I was going to be on this show, I started to think about it just this morning, and I've become very, very intuitive. And what popped was three things for me, the key
Uh-huh.
to living the good life. Okay. The first is being authentic. And being
Yes.
authentic means you have to let go of all of that which you were taught. And that
Mm-hmm.
is that journey. That's why I call what I went on the journey of self discovery. I am still finding my authenticity. So the
Mm-hmm.
first thing we need is to be authentic and true to ourselves. And do we really believe that you have to run the multi-million dollar company? Yes, we have to make a living. Yes, the reality is that money does buy a little bit, buys a lot of happiness. But how do
Right.
we want to earn that money, right? Do we want to do it left brain if we're a creative person? Not sure. The
Mm-hmm.
second, the second pillar is threefold, and it is self-worth, self-confidence, and self-love. Those are really, really important. If you would have asked me, and I'll never forget this experience that I had, because, as I was getting to the end of, as I started reading some of those books, as I was getting to the end of my corporate career, having run the business and being outwardly successful, I remember being out with one of our sales reps and asking him if he thought I was a good leader. Now, how naive is that? Because there's no way he's going to tell me the truth, is he?
Right. Exactly.
And I reflected on that because that was the epitome of, you know, the child Jeffrey that still wanted his father to say, yeah, you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. And
Yeah.
so no
Yeah.
matter what outward success I had, I left that career in the steel distribution and fabrication business not feeling worthy, not feeling
Isn't
worthy.
that crazy to think about? You had so much
Oh,
worldly
doubt. I
success.
had so much doubt. So I did not have the self worth. I did not have the self confidence, and I did not have the self love. And it's kind of interesting because I put a lot of my content up on a meditation app called Insight Timer. So when you talk about people overthinking, I highly
Yeah.
recommend Insight Timer. It is a great app. A lot of meditation teachers and a lot of great teachers. It's an interesting model. It's a much different model than the corporate because the teachers give of their own time.
Mm.
There's like 20,000 teachers, 3 million participants. It's a freemium model where there's a lot for free, and then people sometimes pay for premium, and then they give back to the teachers based on some algorithm. And one of the most amazing lessons I learned from that is the more authentic I was, the more people liked me. And it was like, I can cry in front of them. I can say crazy things. I can say I'm off my game. That never happened when I was running the company. I had to always pretend I was on my game. So that
Mm-hmm.
authenticity is for me, the more authentic I am, the more truthful I am about who I am to other people, and having that self worth and that self confidence and the self love. I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm not like other senior citizens that don't play golf or pickleball or watch sports or any of that. I'm okay with who I am. I'm okay with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third pillar is kind of interesting because, as I told you, I went off on this spiritual journey and believing in some higher power, taking the pressure off of yourself and realizing whatever that higher power is. And I believe that nobody knows for sure, but coming up with spiritual beliefs that allow you to feel more comfortable because otherwise, you just think that all you have is the years you have in this physical body, and my belief in a higher power is allowed me to realize that there's more to that everything that I'm doing now affects the collective consciousness, affects a greater field of consciousness. And so it's thank you for having me, because I'm in the midst of creating this essay that I want to share with people, because it allowed me to sort of look a little bit deeper in terms of, well, what have I learned about living the good life?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, we are very fortunate to have you. You've got so much wisdom to share. And you've mentioned, you've talked about self acceptance a little bit. And I think that's maybe a big thing that we all struggle with, right? Is self acceptance. And I know that you have a process of kind of identifying where we're judging ourselves. Can you share kind of how that works?
Well, it's very similar to that question you ask about how do you stop overthinking, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, and what I mentioned, of course, is that you have to get in touch with how you're feeling.
Okay.
Well, so same answer again. If you judge yourself that you're not good enough. You didn't do that good enough. Like I'm here. Yes, being 74, it's a little easier, right? To just be okay with yourself,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
But we still can work on it. So I can come on your podcast. I can ramble. I'm okay with whatever it is I'm saying, but I can feel when I am judging myself, when I don't think I'm good enough. And no matter how long you're on this journey, it comes up. One of the things that I've come to learn is that our shift and our change and our how we evolve is in layers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no quick fix. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I
Mm-hmm.
have been doing this for over 20 years, and I will continue to do it probably till the day I leave the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I am not telling you I have perfected it, but you get a sense of when am I being judgmental, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, reflecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, we'll use that phrase that I learned, which is awareness leads to choice and choice leads to change. So, all right, how was I being self-judgmental today? How was I being self-critical? Uh, how was I being self-acceptance? Right? Did I feel good enough when I had that conversation with Kimberly? Wow, she's been doing this a long time. Did I feel inadequate? Did I feel okay? So it is that reflection. It is that awareness. Some
Gotcha.
people say, and I'm one of the believers, that awareness is a major aspect of consciousness. So you kind of got to reflect and you kind of got to say, well, well, why am I being so judgmental? Oh, because if I'm not hard on myself, how will I ever get ahead? Do I really believe that? Is that the way I want to live my life? Is that giving me the good life?
Mm-hmm.
Being so self-critical? I mean, we all have the judge and jury in our mind, don't
We
we?
sure do. We
We
sure
just got to
do.
learn how to quiet it.
Yeah.
We got to learn. And that's why that second pillar is self-worth, self-confidence, and self-love.
Yeah. 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 And this brings us all the way back to the very beginning when you talked about your journaling um, process. So that I can see how that practice of journaling
Yeah.
can really lead you to unpack the day
Right. I,
and
I
answer those
personally
questions.
love handwritten journaling because,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of my clients, I suggest, now just take out your phone and put it on record. The key is for the journaling process um, to be free flowing. It's not
Mm-hmm.
polished. It's not, and we're kind of getting used to it because I see people around me. I haven't sort of done it yet, but when you want to send a text or a message, all they do is talk into the into,
Yes.
right. So it is that releasing of it, that becoming aware of how I'm feeling, and
Right.
so but that self acceptance again, being in my 50s, being financially successful, running a company that had 80 employees and $20 million in sales. I When I started to look within, was not confident in myself at all. I was still the little boy trying to get approval from my father.
Right. Right.
In our personal history, by the way, I do a lot of work with people. We kind of got to unravel the personal history that created a lot of the beliefs and perspectives that need to be shifted and changed.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've always done what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got.
Mm-hmm.
We want to change that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a component of that is that people just need to feel heard and seen. And so sometimes just telling that story, don't you think, helps them get to a place where they feel like, okay, you see and hear what I've been through, what I've done, what my
Right.
life has been. And now we have the foundation to begin moving
Right.
forward.
But one of the interesting things is that if we tell that story before building the inner self confidence, the inner self worth,
Uh-huh.
then you are leaving yourself open to the judgment or perspective of another person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can build up that self worth, and that's sort of where that third pillar comes in. As I began my journaling process and started to as I say, clean the swamp of the unexpressed emotional trauma, um, I connected to a higher power that started to give me advice. And it was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And, was it my intuition? Was it my whatever? It doesn't really matter. It
Right.
made sense to me. It made sense to me. You kind of got to get away from the loud crowds. You got to get away from everybody else telling you what to do. Um, the I believe the only way that we're going to get to that living the good life is to go within. You're not going to get it on the outside. You have to retreat. You have to have that silence. You have to sit with yourself, and you have to let go of the influence of everyone around you and just look within, and develop that self-love, which is one of the things I teach all my clients is the mantra, I am the most important person in my life.
Mm.
And it's not ego. I make the distinction. I am not saying, like some people out there these days, that I am the most important person in the world. This isn't
Right.
narcissism. This is self-love. This is, I'm the most important person in my life. How are we going to live
Oh,
the good life if we don't put ourselves first?
that's so challenging for so many of us when we have family and kids and people in our lives that we are the caregiver of, whether it's physically the caregiver of or just they're in, especially as girls. I don't know how it is for men, but for women, it's just like you have your brood and
Of course, it is more difficult. It is
yeah,
definitely more difficult. I understand that. And by
yeah.
the way, that whole aspect of the masculine and feminine energy, I do a lot of work with that because having been raised a male in the
Mm-hmm.
1950s,
Mm-hmm.
um, we and probably not a typical male, as I said, I wasn't that interested in sports or other things. I have got in touch more with my feminine emotional side, and I believe that we have to find the balance. We
Mm-hmm.
have to. My true authentic self is probably more a 60-40 masculine feminine, and most of my life I was probably an 80 or 90% masculine, 10 or 20% feminine. So I got
Wow.
in touch with my feelings. I got in touch with my creative side, and that's why females have more difficulty because they are, stronger in that feminine, caregiving, motherly energy. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I understand that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it is so critical that we, and I lost my train of thought.
That's
Happens
okay
to old
because
people. Yeah.
I have another
You ready to
question for you.
shift?
I'm gonna veer into another direction, but I just have a couple more questions while we wrap this up. But the first one is this, and that is, everything you've said resonates and your journey resonates, going through kind of the expected steps and becoming the successful person and then making that shift. But I just have to ask you, did your family think you were crazy? Did the people
Yes.
around you think you were nuts?
Most of them. My wife was extremely supportive, so that's
Yeah.
good news because,
Yeah, that is.
yeah, remember that heavy masculine. I mean, my wife and this July will be married 47 years, so she
Aw.
hung in there. Um, said that I was emotionally unavailable and now tells me I'm too sensitive. So that's good. I've made a lot of progress. I think it's fantastic. Um, but yeah, you lose some people along the way. But once
Okay.
again, building up that self confidence, that self worth, that self love, you're able to you're able to relate to those that can't accept you in a more loving way. I have this saying: you cannot give to others what you do not have yourself. So if you don't love yourself fully, you're not going to be able to love others. And I have become much more of a loving person. I am able to give much more love and support and kindness because I give it to myself first. That's
Mhm.
why we need to be the most important people in our own life, because we need to build all those things that were taken away. And
Mhm.
now, I mean, one of the big thing, and I keep learning. I love learning and growth. One of the interesting things that I've learned is what triggers you in someone else is your issue. I've
Yes.
come to work on that and all of the triggers. My wife is an amazing teacher. You can imagine after 47 years, the triggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've now started to learn from the triggers. I realize that's my issue. How
Right.
can I work? Okay, and now I don't get triggered as much. So you are able to redefine your relationships. Some of my kids understand me, some of them don't. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I can still be the loving father and grandfather, even though some resonate more with who I am and others don't. I mean, our middle son, our middle childless son is he was who I used to be. He's got some career challenges. How come I didn't get promoted? And my wife says, well, why don't you try and help him? I says, well, because he doesn't understand what I could tell him. He's not ready for that. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to drill into him and say, you've got to do this. No, he's not ready to change.
Because isn't that the same energy, just in a different form? If you're trying to
If I
force
do
the
that,
change
right.
on them, yeah,
Exactly. I just got to hold the space. I got to love them. I got to drop
yeah,
a little hint every once in a while, and so what you do when you kind of lose those people because you go on this journey is you find other ways of connecting with them. They're still
yeah,
my family. I love them all,
yeah,
but some of them don't understand me, and that's okay.
yeah. Oh, what a really healthy place to be. Really healthy.
Well, I mean, your podcast is called Living the Good Life. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I am not going to tell you that I am always living the good life, but the foundation that I have built is allowing me to live the good life more of the time. The last few weeks have been a little bit challenging. It's sort of, I'm not doing enough. I should be helping more people. Is this book ever going to come out? Okay, stop beating yourself up, give
Right.
yourself some space, right? So I am not saying that the good life is going to be there 100% of the time. It never will.
Yeah.
Because the good life, and I'm sure you would agree, is just having more moments that feel like the good life than
Yes.
not, right?
Yes. And steering and creating those moments. And I was just telling somebody a few days ago about my I think it was my very first episode. I had my daughter on to just kind of introduce the concept of the podcast. And this is years ago. Um, and really, one of the things that still illustrates that to me in my mind is eating your mac and cheese off your china.
Yeah.
You
Isn't that
know,
beautiful? Yeah.
make the moments.
Right.
Um, don't punish yourself or withhold from yourself just because you think you have to. Find the moments.
Cherish those moments. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because the good life is just having more of those moments.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now to
It's not a definitive, it's not an absolute, it's not every day. Today we're recording this. We got a full moon, and it's like, oh, okay, there's that full moon energy, right? And so just being accepting. You talked about it, self-acceptance. Yeah, this is not going
yeah.
to be a good day for me, but I'm okay, right? Because tomorrow's
Yeah.
another day.
Right. And what's the best I can take out of it? But if somebody walks away from today after listening to this episode with just one good solid nugget, what do you hope for them that would be?
I really hope that more people can find more moments of living the good life by easing up, stop pushing, don't beat yourself up, love yourself, be authentic. No, I can't give you one.
I was just gonna say,
no, I can't
that's
give you
more than
one
one.
because it's that whole package. It's that
Yeah.
whole package. I guess the first one would be, if you really want to live the good life, start questioning everything you've been taught. Start looking at it from, do I really believe this? In my heart of hearts, do I really believe I have to push? Do I really believe I shouldn't be eating my mac and cheese on the china? Do I really believe it's if they get anything, it's begin with that awareness
Mm-hmm.
of, do I have to believe everything I was taught? And that can be scary because if I don't believe, especially depending on the age of your listeners, right? I mean, if you're 50, well, I was 50. It was a really interesting question, and I've never been asked that question. Did you really have a difficult time shifting those entrenched beliefs? And it's like, no, I didn't, because what I found was so much better. It was like, no, I didn't have trouble giving up what was the source of my suffering, because
Mm-hmm.
what I found was so much better. So begin that self-reflection, begin that self-questioning, begin to dream
Mm-hmm.
what the good life would be, and let go of everything you were taught. Wipe the slate clean. I remember reading a book. I think it was in that Robin Sharma book where the great teacher was teaching the student, and he used the example. He brought out a beautiful piece of china and the teapot, and he poured the tea up to the top, and he kept pouring and pouring and pouring, and it went out into the saucer. And he said to the student, if you don't empty the cup, you will never be able to learn anew. And so sometimes we
Wow.
just have to empty the cup. We are so full. And once again, that social media, the technology, there's nothing wrong with it. Now we have AI. We need to use it in a way that allows us to be ourselves, to grow. Do not let the cup be so overflowing that there's no room for that question of, what would the good life be for me? And
Yeah.
simply being on this today, you you invited me to start
Yes.
writing this essay about what is it in these three pillars. And I'm sure it will lead to another essay and another reflection.
Well, I
So
hope you'll keep us posted.
for sure.
We could do this. I feel like we could do a whole nother episode. Um,
I'm here
it's been a
anytime you
great
want.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Thank
loved
you
it.
so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. It was
And
been
have
great.
an amazing rest of your day, and give your wife, our love too, because
She had to put up with me for 47 years, and 20 of those years were the old me. So you're right. You're right. I better treat her on that anniversary, right?
that's right. That's right. All right. Well, you have an amazing day, and we'll put links in the show notes on how to reach out to you. Do you want to give us a web URL right now, or some?
Yeah, very simple. JeffreyEisen.com. And it's kind of interesting. It's a quick story. As I began my journey, my brand was Awakening the Self, the journey of self-discovery, because I had to hide behind that name. And a number of years ago, I just said, I'm going to stand in my power. My brand is my name. So it's JeffreyEisen.com. Check it out. I offer complimentary free 45-minute clarity calls, and anyone is welcome to tap in and take advantage of 45 minutes of me trying to help you live the good life.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Be sure to check the show notes for links mentioned in this episode, and join us in the Living the Good Life Facebook community for previews of each episode, the opportunity to pose questions directly to our guests, bonus content, and a community of people committed to living their best life and sharing the journey. Thanks for listening. Let us know what value you received from this episode and what you'd like us to explore in the future in the comments. And please take a moment to drop us a like or some stars. I'm Kimberly Henry. Let's get out there and live the good life.